Hi, it's Jamie from Guildbrook Farm, and I'm going to share with you guys the ultimate prepper meal. So what am I calling the ultimate prepper meal? Well, it's a meal that is healthy, it's filling, it uses commonly found ingredients, it's a recipe that can easily be adapted. It can easily be doubled or even tripled to feed a crowd, and it can also be made in a grid down situation. So the meal that I feel fits all of these criteria is called dal bhat. Now dal bhat is the national dish of Nepal, and it's basically lentil soup with rice. Dal meaning lentils and bhat meaning rice. It contains healthy spices such as ginger and turmeric and garlic, which all have antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory and digestion benefits, and it also contains tomatoes for vitamin C, all really good things to have if you're in a very stressful situation. It's filling enough for Sherpas who are carrying 100 pounds on their back and hiking up and down steep mountain cliffs. And it also uses common ingredients that are found in most prepper pantries. It can easily be adapted using different beans or lentils or peas, and even different spices depending on what you have on hand. And it can be easily doubled or tripled to feed a crowd. Now for most Nepali people, it is the only dish that they eat twice a day, every day for their entire lives. Now when I travel, I like to eat what local people eat, and when I went to Nepal for 3 weeks, that is the only dish that I ate over the course of 3 weeks, and I never got tired of it. And when I came home, first thing that I made was dal bhat, and even my husband and my kids love dal bhat, so I can definitely give a thumbs up to this recipe. Now the dish can be eaten alone, or it can be eaten with a side of curried vegetables or even pickled vegetables, and if meat is available, it can be eaten with a side such as shredded chicken, but that's not very common. Now there is many ways to make dal bhat as there is to make Italian pasta sauce. Anybody who knows any Italians knows that each Italian has their own flair when it comes to making sauce, and dal bhat is no different. I'm going to share with you guys the one way that I make it, and of course it can be adapted in any way that you guys feel is necessary or based on whatever ingredients that you have in your pantry. Now dal bhat can be made on a stove, it can be made in a crock pot, it can be made over an open fire, but the one way that I like to make it is in a double pot and cooked in a sun oven. This is by far the most energy efficient way of making dal bhat, and it's an excellent solution for emergency or grid down cooking. So let's get started. We're going to go set up the sun oven. All right, to get this sun oven set up, we're just going to unhook the strap and open up the reflector. We're going to secure the reflector down. We're going to raise up the sun oven. Now we're going to connect our leveling tray inside. We're going to close the glass door and secure it. Then we're going to use the alignment holes to align the sun up so that we know that it's in the right position. Now this is going to allow the sun oven to heat up, and we're going to watch our temperature start to climb. The more direct exposure it has to the sun, the hotter that it's going to get. Now we're going to go inside and prepare our dish, and then we're going to put it in our sun oven to cook all day. All right, there's two parts to dal bhat. Like I said, there's the lentil soup part, and then there's the rice. So we are going to use the double cooker that comes with the sun oven kit, and we're going to start by making our rice in the bottom. We're going to use 1.5 cups of rice. You can use any kind of rice that you want. A pinch of salt. And if you want, you can rinse your rice. I typically do, but if you're in a rush, you can just throw your rice right in. And then we're going to double the amount of water to rice ratio. So for 1.5 cups of rice, we're going to use 3 cups of water. Just give this a quick stir. And that's all we need to do for rice. Okay, now for the dal part. Now you can use any type of lentil, any type of split peas. We're going to use yellow split peas, and we're going to use 1.5 cups. All right, so I just really quickly rinsed my peas and picked out any debris. And now I'm just going to add 1 can of diced tomatoes, and you can also use fresh tomatoes if you have that. We're gonna put the juice and all in here. We're gonna add about 3/4 cup of onion. If you have the time and the ability, you can saute these onions first for a nice caramelized flavor. But if you don't have the time or the ability, you can just toss it right in and they will cook in the sun oven. All right, now we're gonna grate about 1½ teaspoons of fresh ginger into our pot. And if you don't have fresh, you can use dried. And if you don't have dried, you don't have to use any at all. And for dried, you're just gonna wanna use a little bit less, probably about 3/4 of a teaspoon. I'm gonna add about 1½ teaspoons of cumin. And no, I don't measure. 1 teaspoon of turmeric. 1 teaspoon of salt. A little bit of black pepper. That actually helps the turmeric work a little bit better. And about 3 tablespoons of butter. And now we're going to add about 2 cloves of garlic. Then we're just going to add about 5 cups of water. You can make this thicker or thinner by adding more or less water. And we're going to stack our pots. We'll put it in our sun oven. Now we've only been inside for about 10 or 15 minutes making our dish, and you can see that the temperature of the sun oven's almost at 300 degrees already. So this heats up pretty quickly. The more sun you have, the more sun exposure you have, the hotter this is going to get. But as long as you have a shadow on the ground, the sun oven's going to work. So we are going to open this up and go ahead and put our dish in. You're going to want to be careful touching these because they do tend to get pretty hot. And opening up this door is just like opening up an oven, so it can get pretty hot. There's a lot of heat coming out of here. Now we're just going to carefully set our pot in the sun oven. And close our door and lock it. And we're just going to keep an eye to make sure that this stays in line with the sun. So there's 2 ways to cook with a sun oven. The one is to continually face it towards the sun, and that's going to help it cook very quickly. The other way is to get it warmed up and just let it go, and it's going to act more like a slow cooker and cook all day. We'll probably adjust it once or twice throughout the day just to kind of keep the temperatures up, but for the most part we're going to leave this alone and we'll come back to it for dinner tonight. All right, it's about 6 o'clock. The sun has long since gone down and our oven has cooled down to about 100 degrees right now. Laurie and I had a nice afternoon making some pumpkin crafts. But this has been sitting out here since about 10:30 this morning, and all we did was move it around the yard a few times just to kind of follow the sun, because it is late September and we are on a very, very wooded lot, so we have to kind of get glimpses of the sun between the trees. So let's take it out and see what it looks like. Yeah, the pot's still very hot. All right. It cooked up nicely. Yeah. My assistant has a spoon here. No. There you go. You can see how nice and floofy that is. And let's check out our, what do I do with my other one? Let's check out our soup, our dal. All right. Here's our dal.
Oh wow, it's steamy.
And there you go. Now, if you wanted it, traditionally, this dish is pretty watery. It's actually usually even a little bit more watery than this. You can add more water if you like it a little bit thinner, or if you like it thicker, just add less liquid. It's that simple. And like I said, it's very adaptable. So if you didn't have canned tomatoes, you can use fresh tomatoes, or you can use dehydrated tomatoes. Same thing with the onions. You can use dehydrated onions. If you didn't have fresh spices, you could use dried spices. If you didn't have the spices that I used, you can substitute whatever ones you wanted to use. It's a very, very versatile dish. Just a quick note on the Sun Oven. Now, I've had this for about 2 weeks now, and I have not turned my oven on since. I have been exclusively using this as an oven for the past 2 weeks, and I am so impressed with this oven. When I first heard about them a couple years ago, there were a couple other channels that mentioned that they had one, and back then I really thought that it was just a substitute for a slow cooker, and I also thought that there's no way that this would work on our particular lot with all the trees. But I have been using it for the last 2 weeks to just bake everything. I've put apple cobbler in here, I've made soups in here, dal bhat in here. You can stick eggs in there and hard boil them without even putting them in water. You just stick the eggs in there. We actually got the dehydrator set to go with this Sun Oven, and you can dehydrate in here, and it's amazing. We made dehydrated bananas. I am truly impressed with this, and I have to say that I've calculated out that it costs me about $1.80 every time I run my oven in my house in electricity. And I would say that this particular oven is going to more than pay for itself in less than a year. And then beyond that, it's going to be doing nothing but saving money. So I really think this is a worthwhile investment for anybody who's looking into emergency preparedness or off-grid cooking, or just having some substitute for offsetting the cost of electricity in your house. In addition, it does work on a wooded lot. As long as there are spots where the sun is casting a shadow, it will work, and that includes any kinds of temperatures throughout the entire year. I'm looking forward to testing this as we get into winter, as long as we have sun, and seeing just how that works. So if you guys are interested in just seeing how far we can push this Sun Oven and get it to work, stay tuned, because we're going to have a lot more videos on that. But for right now, we're going to take this dal bhat inside, give it a little taste, see if it needs any additional seasoning, and have some dinner. All right, we're just gonna taste it. That's actually pretty good. It just needs a pinch of salt. You wanna try it?
Yes.
It's warm, but it's not too hot.
Okay.
Good stuff?
That's good. Just needs the salt.
Little crank of pepper?
Yes.
When this is served in Nepal, this is typically served as a bowl of rice and then a bowl of the dal. And then usually what the Nepalese will do is put the rice on their plate and pour some of the dal on top of the rice, and that's how it's eaten. So we're just going to put some of the rice in a bowl, just like this. And then we're just going to put the dal on top. And there you go. All right, so that wraps up our ultimate prepper meal. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And if you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. Make sure you stay tuned. We have a lot more videos coming up on our off-grid cooking series. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Yum. That's how chickens blink. Something got in my eye.
You're weird.
I am.